All right, let's talk about the AFC West and get into our three-point stance. We're going to start right there in Denver. So, Mel, give us three things the Broncos must address this offseason.
Sean Payton hit on it. You talk about a receiving entity, and he mentioned running back. I had Ashton Genty go in there in Mach 1.0. For Marion and Hampton, the field's favorite players there at pick 20. You got to think about him, too. But I think this divisional dynamic with Denver at 20 and the Chargers at 22. And you got Colston Loveland. I know he had shoulder surgery in January. He's going to be ready to go. He had a great year with J.J. McCarthy a couple years ago. He played well this year with the quarterback situation being subpar. He's 6'5", 245, great athlete, heck of a basketball player in the state of Idaho in high school. This kid's a talent, that joker, that versatile piece that Sean Payton wants. He could provide. Jim Harbaugh would love to have him at 22 to the Chargers, which is a neat area for them. Will the Chargers move ahead of Denver? Will Denver feel they need to move up to get this guy? I think he's going to be hot. He's at 11 on the big board. Tyler Warren, 7. There's not a big gap there between those two. And you got two teams in the same division that want a guy like this. And Jim Harbaugh coached him at Michigan. What could be more fun and entertaining than that?
All right, so let's go. I mean, thanks for the segue. Right to the Chargers. Give me their top.
No, we're going to talk about the Broncos. Yeah, no, the Broncos, as you guys all know, I'm super high on the Broncos and what they can achieve. And if they can lock up some offensive help, I mean, that would be so huge. The inconsistency with their run game and just the lack of ability for them to reliably make plays when they needed to, it just put such a burden on Bo Nix. There was too many games where Bo Nix was so reminiscent of just like a high school game where the best athlete and best player is the quarterback, and he's just kind of trying his best to make do. And the game that highlighted that beautifully was against the Ravens, because, you know, they got beat really good, but you could see that Bo Nix was like playing really well and was doing everything he could to get into the end zone. Like, he was playing high level football. And, you know, with the Broncos, some of the inconsistency with what they were trying to do offensively really kind of drove me nuts. And, you know, it's just constantly kind of putting that on Bo Nix's plate. And it's so great, though, because, listen, the draft is always going to be a roll of the dice, because you just never know, obviously. But the fact that you now already also have like an established high level defense, and seemingly, should have the continuity of a high level O-line, and you have a quarterback who's going to continue to get better and better and better, and also has mobility himself. It's just like, if you can just get some, another playmaker and a reliable run game, I mean, like, it's just, you're just going to be an amazing situation. I mean, you just are. And if you play your cards right, I really think that the Broncos will legitimately be competing for the division. Like, I don't see how this season, again, unless the Chiefs really blow people away with some of the moves that they make, I'm failing to see why the Chiefs should be able to just easily win the division. I just don't see that. And if they do, it would be more about the Broncos and the Chargers' failures and their own poor decisions, or just, bad luck with injuries, than the Chiefs' brilliance and greatness. Unless there's like an influx of players that really want to go to Kansas City because they want to win or something. But, I'm not, they get Max Crosby, Myles Garrett, T. Higgins, and I don't know, insert some other guy for good measure. I just don't see it. And I think the Chiefs will probably be a little bit better than they were last year. You're going to have Rashee Rice back, etc. But I just think that the Broncos, and granted, again, the Broncos are still unfortunately dealing with some of, the aftermath of their own previous decisions. But I just think if they can find that dude, if they can just get a little, and again, when I say luck, I mean it kind of loosely, but if they can just get a little lucky in the draft, it could be big. Like, I just think you're gonna be set, and that's the benefit. And it's so funny because I'm definitely a pendulum swinger with offense and defense, and I am still very much offensively driven, and I still always want an offensive head coach, a quarterback, and this or that. But I think what the Kansas City Chiefs really highlighted beautifully, and to a degree the Eagles, but definitely less so because their offense was still so dominant, is that with a great defense, as long as your offense is competent, you're going to win some games. But it's backwards. Like, if you have a great offense, you can't often always have a competent defense and expect to win, because once you face another great offense, they can just pile on the points. And a great offense or a good offense can't always necessarily pile on those points. But if you have a great defense that can really, make things ugly and withhold these teams and get extra possessions and better field position, the synergy that it has for your offense just really makes things just so much easier, right? I think it's kind of like an asymmetrical impact on your offense, on your defense towards your offense, and your offense on your defense, if I said that right. And so if the Broncos can just get that upgrade offensively, like when we look at 2024, they were third in defense, which is obviously great. And then they were 10th in offense, which is not bad at all considering you had a rookie quarterback. But the goal here with Sean Payton and a Bo Nix is to get that offense to being like top 5, right? Like that's what you're supposed to have. You're supposed to have a top 5 at a minimum offensive head coach. And again, I'm not acting like this is easy, and I'm not saying that it has to be, because at the end of the day, these rankings, especially based off of just points alone, it's not my favorite way to do it, but just to kind of, make it as easy as possible, because obviously, of course, situationally and all of that, matters more than anything. But it's just, I think this team moving forward is actually predicted now to potentially win, to win 12 games. And that's going to be on the foundation of that this defense is going to continue being what they were, and that this offense is now going to take a legitimate step forward. And if that's where you are, like I said, you're now competing to win the division. You win the division, you have a home playoff game. Like you end up being in a fascinating situation. And it's just, you get to avoid potentially having to play like the Bills, the Bengals, the Chiefs, whoever, on the road, first round, etc., which obviously the Broncos know how that unfolded for them. And think about how it was so interesting. Their offense and their defense against the Bills in that playoff game, the defense was actually doing a really great job. The offense was just not able to just really get over there. And like you were just, the offense was there, but then in these key moments, and that's where the rankings don't matter, because then they couldn't take advantage of the opportunity that was given to them. And then the defense just kind of, eventually just, the dam broke, especially when you're not having sustained drives offensively. So I just think that the Broncos, I really think they're set to pop. But again, it's so dependent on the draft, which is a little bit more uncomfortable, because it's a little differently, it's a little different energy when you're, say, like the Ravens or the Eagles in the offseason, and you're like, well, we're going to go out and get Derrick Henry. We're going to go out and get Saquon Barkley. Like, you know what those guys can achieve. The drafts will always, for the most part, make me uncomfortable. Because as I always talk about, and I've been repeating this a lot lately, just because we're in peak prediction season right now. It's just like, we're just so far away. Making predictions about what this tight end or what this person could do makes me uncomfortable. I made very strong predictions about Bo Nix being great and all of that, but I just think, it's just, I don't know. We're a little too far out. Not to mention, I hate talking about players that I don't even know if they're going to get drafted there. I don't want to waste my time talking about a certain running back, how great he would be with the Broncos, only to have him not get drafted there. So I'm still wrestling and still kind of thinking out loud in terms of, and reading the comments in terms of any, input on how how to kind of deal with all this pre-draft talk, because it's just such wild speculation. But you have to imagine that to some degree you're probably expecting the defense to slightly. It's always hard if you're a top defense to like continue to be top year after year after year. There's always going to potentially be that backslide, but you have to imagine that this offense should be able to take a significant step forward. And there was so much on Bo Nix's plate, and this is what I kind of said with Jaden Daniels, that if you could just take some off his plate, I mean, like, you're golden, man. When you just allow Bo Nix to kind of just settle in and play some quarterback, like, you're just gonna win some games. You're gonna win some games, and where they are right now within the division and the makeup of the Chiefs and the Chargers and the Raiders, you're set to actually compete for the division. And that's obviously exactly where you want to be and beyond, of course, but you're literally right there. You're literally right there, and it could have been if you were just a tad better, you would have been second in the division. You would have played the Texans. And I think the Broncos absolutely positively could have beaten the Texans, without a doubt. And then I forget the way how the seeding would have worked, because I think if you won that game, I don't know if you would have then played the Chiefs. I think you potentially would have gone on. I think, or no, I guess you probably still would have played the Chiefs, I think, the way how the seeding worked. So then you would have then went on to play the Chiefs. And then again, we know how the Broncos fared against the Chiefs. So, like, this stuff really ends up mattering significantly. But instead, you had to go on the road and play the Bills. And obviously, we know how that unfolded. So, take a step forward offensively. You have a legitimate path to win the division and find yourself competing for an AFC championship game at the minimum. I can't imagine, I can't imagine anyone being unhappy with that at this point in the Bo Nix, Sean Payton era. To even actually have a legitimate chance to win the game, to get into the AFC championship game, is a massive success, while still dealing with the fallout of the Russell Wilson acquisition. Sounds pretty great to me. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the Denver Broncos? How much of a step forward do you think they can make? And what do you think their best path forward to doing that is? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're all on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.